Hello everyone, Ben here with a solo game of K2. So there are several setup variabilities you can do at the beginning of K2. You can have your choice of either the easy side or the hard side of the board. It's basically double-sided, so you kind of flip it over depending on which side you want to play on. And then again your choice of the slightly easier summer weather tiles or the slightly harder winter weather tiles. And so at the moment we're going for the hard side of the board, but the easier summer weather tiles. So we'll see how that works. And then spaces on the board are restricted as per a two-player game. So the number of climbers per space is limited to the number shown next to the number 2. So at least on the lower levels of the mountain that's fine, because each space is limited to 2 climbers, and we only have 2 climbers, that's fine. But on the upper levels, each space is limited to 1 climber per space. So that could be a bit of a problem. Hopefully we'll plan around it anyway. And then everything else is pretty much the same. You've got 6 cards to choose from, and then your normal acclimatization levels and your pool of risk tokens, and that's all fine. So to start with then we have 6 cards, and we need to choose 3 of them and then apply them to our climbers. Right, which probably means, well, I guess if we're going to climb we may as well start climbing, so that one, probably that one and that one. So basically a bunch of low-level climbing cards. That's not too bad at the start anyway, which means we'll hopefully see the higher levels as we get up the mountain a bit, which is fine. And so these are movement cards. So you have normal movement cards here, which is just the value in the green circle, but you also have rope cards, so they have an upwards movement and then a greater downwards movement. Obviously because it's easier to abseil down a cliff than it is to climb up it. So that's fine. Won't be using these for downwards just yet because we want to try and get up as fast as possible. So use those, and we need to, so in a normal game you would, if you are the climber with the most movement points, upwards movement points, then you have to take a risk token because you are seen to be the riskiest climber. However, because in a solo game you are the only climber, you have to still take a risk token anyway. So you're basically taking one every turn, which means we have the 3 to choose from, and we get to choose 1 out of the 3 and apply it to the cards or the climber's acclimatization level, as you see fit. So what have we got? 4 movement in total. Well, it's probably worth taking the biggest one at the moment. So it is going to severely hamper our movement, but once these risk tokens are taken, they are then discarded and out of the game for the whole game. So if we can basically weed out all the bigger ones now and save ourselves the trouble of having to come across them later on when it might not be so easy, it's probably best to try and do that at the moment. So sure, we'll take this, and basically it's a kind of a minus points modifier. So it will turn this 2 climbing value card into a 0. So that's fine, and it still means we have 2 more points of movement. So we will move this guy 2 spaces. So if a space doesn't say otherwise, it's a 1 movement space. If it says otherwise, if it has sort of the number 2 in the orange circle or later on a number 3, that obviously denotes more climbing points in order to get into that particular space. But for the time being that's fine. So this is now discarded out of the game. The cards are discarded, but we will see these later on. So they are not, as the risk tokens, they are not put in a permanent discard. We will get access to them as the game progresses. And then a bit of cleanup. So 3 more cards to give us 6 to choose from. Right. We need to flip over any risk token. Okay, and apply acclimatization points as per spaces and also penalty points as per the weather. So both of these guys are in a +1 space. So blue is positive, red is negative. So they're both getting +1 acclimatization, which is fine. So +1 there. And then the weather is cooperating with us at the moment. So basically for the first 3 days anyway, it's no penalties whatsoever, it's clear blue skies. In towards the next 3 days after that, you've got a couple of heavy weather warnings, so basically -2 to your acclimatization level, but it only depends on the particular altitude band you're in. So the weather is only going to affect above 8,000 feet that day. This day it's going to affect above 7,000 feet. So it's based on the white kind of semicircle that goes around the outside. So you can plan around it, and that's hopefully what we'll try and do as we get further up the mountain. So we're not suffering any penalties from the weather at the moment, that's fine, and we'll just move the day marker on to show we're on the next day. So that is everything. We have our 6 cards to choose from, so we need to pick another 3 then. Okay, well let's keep going then. So that one. Not going to bother using it for downwards movements, that's fine. And probably 1, 2, 3. And that is 3. So possibly that one then. Yes, okay. So we'll take these 3 cards. So we have upwards movement of 3 plus 1 acclimatization. Well, when we take the risk, we will probably apply it to the acclimatization card. So that basically cancels that out completely. Still leaves us with 3 points of movement, so we can go 1, 2, 3. And it would have, if we decided to go into this space, it would have taken us 2 more movement points to even move into that space. So that's fine. We'll use the 3 movement to the best of its ability, and then just apply the risk to that card. So risk is out, cards are out. Both miners are still getting +1 from their respective spaces, that's fine. 3 more cards. So there's a big movement card, and a couple of lower levels. Okay, that's not too bad. More risk tokens, yep. And no effects from the weather, so we're on to the next day. So now if we take our level 3 climbing card, so that will get us 3 movement points, 4 movement points would be up those 2 spaces. Which way do we want to go then? So basically there are several paths up the mountain, as you can see. Now normally those are used to circumvent other climbers if they're being a pain and getting in your way and blocking you. But for a solo game, well, hopefully you're not going to block yourself unless you've done something very wrong. So it's basically used to try and get up the mountain in the fewest movement possible. So 2, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. So this is slightly less points than that. Which again is less points than that. Okay, fine. So that's probably the way we're going to try and get up the mountain, at the moment anyway. So if we do 2, 4, and then 1 acclimatization, and we'll just apply the risk to that one. Although if we go there, we're going to stop getting positive acclimatization from the space. So maybe just 2 then. No, that should be fine. We'll get some bigger acclimatization cards later on, so we'll be able to hopefully boost this guy a bit. So we'll take these cards, and we'll take, well, it's all 1s anyway, so we'll take 1 risk and apply it to this card here. So we've gone 2, 4 movement, using those cards, and this one is cancelled out, so that's fine. So this guy is still getting +1 from his base camp space. This guy, however, now is getting nothing, but at least he's not suffering a penalty. so that's fine. Okay, 3 new cards. Yep, those are the big acclimatization cards, that's fine. 1 new risk token, there's a 0. And no adverse effects from the weather, and now we're into reasonably heavy weather territory. So we can basically see that today, as long as you're not above 8,000 feet, which chances are not very high, we're going to get that high, you're going to be fine. Tomorrow, if you're above 7,000 feet, you're going to suffer effects of weather. Well, yeah, chances are not very likely we're going above 7,000 by tomorrow either. So that's fine. And then clear blue skies for the next couple of days after that. And then we'll worry about those later on. So yeah, that seems about right for the moment. Which means, was that everything? Yep, I think that was everything. So now we need to keep on trucking up the mountain using probably that card or these two. Probably these two. Because we can only, yeah. And then we'll take that big acclimatization card there and leave those for later. Okay. So 2 movement points, 3 acclimatization, and we'll take the 1 risk and apply it to the acclimatization card. So 1, 2 movement, and then essentially 2 points of acclimatization up to 5, that's fine. And we are done with cards. So this guy is still getting +1 from his space. No effects from the weather, because no one is above 8,000 feet, so that's fine. New risk token, yep, and move on to weather. So now we can see that provided we don't get above 7,000 feet, so provided we don't go into this altitude band, we should be fine. Or at least we won't suffer -2 from the weather. And so 2, 4, yeah, I don't think we're going to get above that space anyway, so that should be fine. So if we do those 2, then that will be 4. Well, so basically now we're down to 6 cards. So we've exhausted our deck the first time, and we have 6 cards left. So you have 3 to play now, and then the final 3 that are left, so for example 3 to play now, these 3 then you are forced to play for your next turn. And then you reshuffle the discard and you start a new deck. And you do that twice. So basically 3 passes through your deck in total. So if we play these 2, 3 now, we're left with these 3 for next day. That's not going to be quite enough, is it? It does mean we're going to probably stall up the mountain slightly. So basically we've got 4 points of movement there for these 2 spaces, which will be these 2 cards. And we can worry about that later. These 2 spaces are going to be 5 points of movement in total. And we only have 4 points of movement, so we're basically 1 short. Okay, we can't split cards, so unfortunately we can't split this 3 across 2 climbers. So actually, if we do it this way round, like that, so that's still 4 points of movement today, which basically will get our guy up there. And then we have 4 points of movement tomorrow, but we can now use it effectively across 2 climbers. So that guy will go an extra space up to there, and this guy will go 2 spaces. I think that is the better way to play them. And then 2, yeah, okay, that seems about right. Yeah. So for today at least anyway, we've got 4 movement and 0. So what I'm going to do is take a risk token and we'll apply it to that card essentially. And I'll show you what I mean in a second. So this guy is going to go to, Smooth Climber is going to go 4 spaces of movement, so 2, 4. He'll be fine there. This card, we're actually going to apply it to this bumpy climber down here. So we can't modify the card, but since we are applying a card to a climber, we can modify his acclimatization level. So a card is still technically being played to the climber, even if it's not really doing much, but it means we can move his acclimatization down by 1, which we will do. So he doesn't get it all nice and easy at base camp. Right, and that's that done. So now we come to space modifiers. So this guy is going to get +1 and moving back up to 5. That guy is going to go down by -1. So he is down to 4. Which means we'll probably need to put that on him. Okay, fine. So that was that. We're left with these 3 cards for the next round. We have to play them. We do not suffer anything from weather because we are just below the 7,000 altitude, so that's fine. New weather day and more risk. Okay, that's reasonable then. So basically now, so we have to play these cards, and we've got 4 movement across 2 cards. So our smooth climber will go 2 spaces, or 2 movement up that space, that's fine. And our guy at base camp will also go 2 spaces. And because we have to take the risk token, we will apply it to the guy who was at base camp. So this card won't affect the movement points, but it will knock his acclimatization down by a couple of points. So down to 3. So he is being of some use, even if he's kind of hanging way at the back there. And then we'll play this acclimatization card on our smooth climber to move him to his maximum of 6. And that should be fine. So basically, there are several levels of the status board here. So you've got pale blue spaces and dark blue spaces. 6 is the top of the pale blue track, and it's basically the maximum amount of acclimatization points your climber can get. If they get more, this is only temporary and it knocks back down for the end of the round, end of the turn, sorry. So you're always at 6. Even if you go above, you basically get moved back down to 6. So that's fine at the moment. And then we need space modifiers, so +1 for bumpy guy, -1 for smooth guy. New risk token. Right, so we're coming up against a lot of zeros now, okay. And we are fine on the weather, so clear blue skies for the weather, that's okay. And then the next day is going to be clear blue skies, and then a bunch of heavy weather moving into the next week. Right. Okay, well, fair enough. And we've gone through the deck once, so now what happens is we basically shuffle it up. I will do a quick shuffle. So you shuffle the deck up once, and this then gives you your new deck to draw 6 cards from and basically start all over again. And then you do that one more time after that, and then that is the end of the game. So that's a reasonable shuffle, hopefully. So now we have 6 cards to choose from. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Oh dear. I did not draw any acclimatization cards. Right then. Well, okay, fair enough. So we probably want that one. Let's look at the weather. So clear blue skies today. And then basically our guy is going to get, our smooth climber is going to get hit because he's above 7,000 feet. So yeah, that's a bunch of, yeah. Interestingly enough though, he does not get hit if he's above 8,000. So these 2 days of poor weather only affect the 7,000 to 8,000 altitude. So this particular band here. So if we can get him up here, That's unlikely. Then he technically wouldn't get hit by the weather, but yeah, that's pretty much not going to happen, I don't think, with the cards we've got. So 3 movement, no, not likely to happen. But we could get him up and then bring him back down again, which might be the better thing to do. He's not doing too terribly bad on acclimatization points, so he can technically hang out on the mountain a bit longer and hopefully not perish. So maybe just move him up 3. Trouble is we're going to need to move him up. If he's going to actually keep moving, we're going to need to give him all 3 cards, basically, if we don't want him to stall out on the mountainside. So that might be what we have to do. Right. Or maybe 3 and then a tent. Yeah, could do that. That might help, actually. At least for the time being, anyway. Alright, we'll try that. So we're going to use 6 movement cards, or 6 movement points, sorry. But this guy is going to move... That's a lot of points to build a tent, though. Maybe just where he is, then. So if we do that instead, and save the big value cards. Alright, we'll try... So a slight reworking of plan. We'll try that instead. Maybe that then. Yeah, okay, so a complete reworking of plan. So 3 movement points now across 3 cards. So this guy is, or the smooth climber is going to get 2 movement cards. But rather than propel him up the mountain even further, we're going to build a tent where he currently is. It's not the best spot, is it? Oh, well, anyway. So the cost to build a tent is essentially the movement points for that particular space. So 2 movement space would cost you 2 movement points to build a tent. Would you better coming down and up and building one there then? It might actually be better. Okay, so again, another quick reworking now I think about it. So if we do 2, yeah, okay, that's going to be tough on his acclimatization level, though. It might be workable actually. We'll try that instead. So yep, another quick reworking. Right, so 4 movement points now. Sorry guys. So we're going to go down 2 and up 1. So that's a total of 3. And we need to take risk, so we'll grab that one. Might be worth taking a 0 risk now. Might be worth taking a 0 risk actually. So we'll take a 0 risk, which basically means we don't get any modifier. So we've gone 3 movement, and then we're going to spend the extra 1 movement in this space to plonk down a tent. So like that. So risk is out, cards are out, and basically tents are, as long as you're in them, obviously, tents are a +1 acclimatization modifier to a space. So yeah, that should be fine. Right, which means this guy is going to get +1. And that guy is going to get -1. So it's -2 for the space, but he has a tent, so it's only -1. And nothing from the weather. So the weather is fine. 3 more cards. And the idea now then is to try and get Smooth Climber up enough on the kind of the easier track of the mountain that we can get him up and then hold him there for a bit, hopefully while the poor weather passes, and then get him back down enough that he doesn't suffer any more ill effects from the weather. Yeah, that's probably going to fall apart, but we'll see. So no effects on weather, so we're into the new day. So if we can get him above 8,000 today and hold him there tomorrow, he won't actually suffer anything from the weather. He will suffer from the space though. Well, I don't think it can be helped. That's going to be, what, -2 from the space, and then another -2? So we'll need to give him at least one acclimatization then probably, as well as 3 points of movement. Yep. And yeah, okay, and then 1 point of movement for the other guy, and we'll give him the risk. So something like that. So Smooth Climber is going to go 3 points of movement upwards. 2 and 3 there. And I should be marking victory points. So that's 7 for that guy, and this guy hasn't even got started yet. And he's going to get +1 acclimatization, so bring him up to 5. Bumpy guy at the bottom here is going to go 1 movement, and then he will take the -1 to his acclimatization. So that's fine. That is all the cards played. Which means that he's going to get +1 from the space. Smooth guy at the top there is going to get -2 from the space, but he is not going to get hit by weather. Right, so as long as we... yeah, okay, we'll see about that. So he's not going to get hit by weather, that's fine. And we need more cards and more risk. And a new weather day. Okay. So -2 now between 7 and 8,000 feet. So he's currently fine. If we can get him down below 7,000, he would also be fine. That might be an idea actually, because we do want to try and get him off the mountain now. He's in a bit of trouble. So maybe... so that's what? 2, 3 downward movement points plus another 2. So 5 downward movement points in total would actually be these cards. And then a couple of cards, or a card for this guy. Yeah, like that maybe. Keep him trundling along. Right. That would be technically workable. Yeah, alright, well we'll see. So we're now going to start using rope cards in earnest for our Smooth Climber, and we need risk. So we'll take again the 1 risk token and we'll apply it to that guy. So we're going to use 5 downward movement in rope cards to get this guy 2, 3, 4, 5 off the mountain sharpish, or at least below a reasonable level anyway. So that's his done. This guy is again going to move 1 space, keep on trucking, and take a hit to acclimatization. So that's the risk token, that's all the cards. Then we apply spaces, so again +1 for Bumpy guy at the bottom there, and -1 only for Smooth guy because he is not affected by the weather. He is below, just about below 7,000 feet. So that is also just about fine. More risk. Right, there's a -2. Okay. And 3 more cards. So there's a couple of big movements and acclimatization. And we need new weather. So looking at the weather now, we probably want to try and get... we do need to get Smooth guy off at least this space. So if he gets down to there, that will help him out for the rest of at least a couple of days of weather. So he will take 1 minus effect from this day of weather, but he will not suffer anything else for at least the next 3 days, and he will not suffer from the space. So do we have... we do have a 3 downwards movement. It's a bit wasteful because it's also a 2 upwards movement, but what can you do about it? So we might have to use that on him, which leaves us playing a load of cards then to Bumpy guy to get him up as quick as possible now and try and get up the mountain. So that's 1, 2, 3, that one, 4, 5, something like that, and we need a 2 risk as well. Well, we don't have to take the 2 risks, but I think again it's worth weeding it out while we can. So something like that maybe. Yep. well, that's a... Yeah, okay, so we'll try that and we'll see. So 3 downwards movement as per this card, so that's fine. And then 1, 2, 3. Maybe that way up the mountain, although we do have a tent up that side now. So maybe... yeah, okay. So maybe then 3 and then an extra 2 up that side instead. And we'll try going that way up. Yeah, alright. And then we need to take 2 risks, so we'll go -2 there on Bumpy Guy's acclimatization. And that's fine. So he is still getting +1 from his spot, so up to 4. Smooth Guy is going to get hit by -1 from the weather, but he will just be at the bare minimum, which will hopefully protect him at least for the time being. I can't ask for more than that, really. So 3 more cards, which is a bunch of acclimatization, basically. No, fair enough. 1 more risk, and 1 more weather. Yep, okay. So now we have 2 movement there. I think we really need to either start applying acclimatization to this guy or basically hold out for a rope card in the next couple of turns. Well, at least 2 turns, because we are at the last 6 of the deck. So deck's run out again. So discard is currently almost full up. So we have 3 more cards now, 3 more cards next round, and then we'll shuffle the deck for the last time and go through it 1 more time. So we are at least 2 turns away from seeing a rope card. So we might have to play some acclimatization just to hold him over. We'll see. So 2 movements, 1 movement which can get wasted by a risk, and then a bit of acclimatization. Yep. Okay. So those are the... But then what? Then we're stuck with all this stuff, which is not going to help us at all. This is some terrible planning, actually. If you're good at counting cards, and obviously I am not, you can essentially figure out sort of what cards you have remaining coming into the last 6 and then plan accordingly. I have failed catastrophically at the moment, and I am stuck with a few movement cards which are much help, and a bunch of acclimatization which are going to be even less help, because they're probably going to put us over the maximum and be wasted. So, or maybe used for mitigating risk. Well, nothing about it now. So we'll do those and leave those, which is a bit of a waste, but fine. And we'll take 1 risk and probably have to apply it to movement because it would be wasted anyway. So Bumpy Guy is going to go 2 and then cancel that card out and take 2 points of acclimatization. So 6 there. Smooth Guy is fine. No one's going to get affected by weather because they're all below 7,000 feet where the weather would start affecting them, so that's fine. Cards are played. So last 3 cards to play. Acclimatization values are fine, new weather day and new risk. So again a +1. And we have these cards. Oh dear. Yep. Well, we'll take the 1 risk because obviously we want to get rid of the biggest one. And I suppose we could put all the acclimatization points on Smooth Guy here. So essentially that would be 3. And it may very well mean that 1, 2, 3. It may very well mean that actually we don't have to give him any more movement points whatsoever, and he should just be able to survive at that altitude for the rest of the game. Basically because below 6,000 feet you do not get hit, at least in summer tiles. I don't know about winter ones, but at least in summer ones you do not get hit below 6,000 feet by adverse weather conditions. So he's not quite in the safe band of altitude, but if we give him enough acclimatization points, he might just be able to basically sort of hunker down and weather out any bad storms that come his way. So that might be able to save us a couple of movement cards. Whether that's the case will remain to be seen. So we're done with the round. Everyone is fine on acclimatization points. We need some more risk. Right, okay, fair enough. So no one's getting affected by weather because that's only 8,000 feet and above. So new weather tile. So basically clear blue skies, -2, -1, oh, right, so he's going to get hit enough. So that's going to be a total of 5 across those 3 poor days of weather to his acclimatization. So basically he needs 2 more points of acclimatization, or a couple of movement points to get him off the mountain. Alright, fair enough. And we need to do 1 shuffle of the deck now, and that will be the final shuffle. So, quick shuffle, and then we are on the final third of the deck, or the third of the game basically. And we need to get Bumpy Guy up the mountain. He needs all the movement basically now to get up the mountain as quick as possible, I think is probably the order of the day. And hopefully that will salvage this mountain climbing expedition. Right, that's that. So 6 more cards to start with. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, so yeah, a bit of movement, that's not too bad. And it's a nice sunny day now. And yeah, everyone's going to get hit by -2. Okay, well, there we go. So 2 movement. 3 movement, 4, 5 maybe, and save the rest until later. So that would be, and we can use 1 risk token and save the zeros when we really need them. So that would be 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, okay. Or 3 movement, and maybe get rid of that acclimatization just as... It might be worth doing that actually. Do we need the one... Well, okay, so we'll do it this way. We'll do 3 movement, so 2, 3. They can both occupy the same spot. They're fine where they are at the moment. No acclimatization either way. And then the 1 risk, because we only do stuff with Bumpy Guy, will go on to him as a -1 to him, and that's all done with. No one's getting affected by the space, and no one is getting affected by the weather, so that's fine. And there is a -2 risk, okay. And then we need some more cards, like that. So that's more movement, that's pretty good, and a new day. So basically now everyone is going to get hit by -2. Yep, doesn't matter. As long as you're above 6,000 feet, which both of these guys are, they're going to get hit by -2. So can we maybe get Bumpy Guy now, who actually should be up there with his points? Can we get him far enough up so he's in the tent? That's 5 points of movement. What do we have? 2, 4, 5. Yeah, so we can get him up to the tent, and then he would suffer 3 points of acclimatization damage, which would bring him down to 2. But after that, it's clear blue skies, and then he's not affected. So yeah, that might be the better way of doing it, actually. Get him up to the tent quick enough that he's out the worst of the weather for the coming days. And he's still suffering a bit while he's in the tent, but at least it's not too bad. And then maybe make a push for the summit after that. Okay, so we do have risk to take though. We do have risk to take. Maybe a 0 in this case now. So this is the bit where it starts getting a bit dicey, and we're happy to have the zeros we've managed to kind of save into the pile. Yeah. Alright, we'll try it that way then. So we'll take 0 risk, which means we don't have to apply a modifier to anything. And we've got 5 upwards movement of cards. So this guy is going to go 2, 4, 5, and sit in his tent for the evening. Bumpy guy is still hanging around on the side of the mountain. Smooth guy, sorry. So everyone's going to get hit by -2 from the weather. So 1, 2, 1, 2. Smooth guy is not taking any further effects. Bumpy guy is taking just -1 because he's got his tent to help him out slightly. Okay. So some big movement, not much in the way of acclimatization. Have I... Oh dear, have I killed myself? Oh dear. Okay, well, let's see. Alright, so there's another 0 modifier on the risk tokens, that's fine. New weather day, which is clear blue skies. So, okay. I think Bumpy Guy is definitely going to need -1. Sorry, +1 from that. I don't want to move him out his tent. Although he could move up and build his own tent. So basically each climber has their own tent. You have a smooth tent and a bumpy tent. Smooth tent is already out as per this guy, so bumpy climber can also put his own tent out. And climbers can use basically their teammates' tents, that's fine. So he could move up with that and put his own tent out. Which might be the way to go, actually. Yeah, alright. Well, it's a plan anyway. Whether it works will remain to be seen. No, might save the rope card just in case we desperately need it. Yep. Okay. Yes, we might very well need that rope card actually. So that's our 3 cards, and again we will take a 0 risk. Yeah, alright. So we've got 2, 3 movement, and then the extra 1 is building a tent. And 1 acclimatization, like so. So that is all done with. And we do need to see some big acclimatization cards. There's a 2 at least, there's a 3. Alright, so we should be not suffering this round anyway. Don't know about next round. And we need some more risk, so okay, marginal risk then. And the final 3 days of weather, no one suffered today, so that's fine. Bumpy Guy is going to take a -1 from the space, but that's it for both of those. Right, so today, Bumpy Guy is basically fine weather-wise for the remainder of the game. So 3 more days of weather, and he is high enough at the mountain that the weather is going to pass below him and not affect him. Smooth Guy, however, is currently in danger zone. He's going to get hit by 3 points of weather damage, and he only has 2 health, or 2 acclimatization. So he needs to be at 4 basically to survive. So he needs 2 more points there, or he needs to get off the mountain. I think it's better to give him the acclimatization points than waste movement on him, because we want to save the movement for Bumpy Guy so he can hopefully get the summit before the end. That's the idea. And then 3 there, and we'll play a 1 and mitigate it with some risk. Like so. So if we play 2 acclimatization to Smooth Guy, 1, 2, that will now save him for the rest of the game. 3 to Bumpy Guy, 1, 2, 3. I don't know whether that will help him or not. Yeah, alright, might be a big push at the end either way, we'll see. And then that risk is going to basically cancel out that card. Okay. So Bumpy Guy is going to get -1 still, but he's fine from the weather. Smooth Guy is going to get -1, but he's fine from the space, so basically -1 apiece. More risk. Okay, yep. And the final 6 cards. Okay. Don't know. Right, which means we need a new day of weather. So last 2 days of weather, last 6 cards to finish up. So Smooth Guy's fine. He can stay there. He's not going to get hit enough by the weather to worry about it, so he is fine. So basically we need all cards on Smooth Guy, Bumpy Guy, sorry, to get him at the top. Something like that then, maybe. And some risk. Well, no, not much risk really. 0 risk, in fact. Okay. Yeah, I think that's probably the... no, save that. That's a wasted point of movement, so we'll save that. And we could do that instead. And maybe then do 2 risk. So 2 movement will get him up the next space, basically. But he is going to get hit by the -2 modifier. Which means he's down to 2. So he started at 4. +1 from the card. And then this risk can be, you can split 2 risk tokens, so it could be 1 to the card and then 1 to the acclimatization. So that would basically then actually cancel out those 2 cards, leaving 2 movement and then 2 from that. We have no more... no, that can't work at all. I think he's going to die at the side of the mountain, unless we use that. Yeah, alright, so no risk. And then those 3 cards there, which will... okay. I'm not convinced this is going to work, but we'll see. So he's going to spend 4 movement points over the 3 cards, and he's not going to take anything from risk, so that's fine. So he is going to go 4 movement up there, and then he is there, so he's taking 2 from the space, and nothing from weather. Weather is a nice clear day, that's fine, so that's all out. Which leaves us with these 3, and then Smooth Guy's fine, so he can stay where he is. And then the final day is a -1 to risk. So we need that, and that actually might work. Okay, so 3 movement up the mountain. We'll apply 1 risk to this movement, so it'll cancel that out, and then 1 to the acclimatization. So 3 movement up the mountain actually does get him to the summit, thankfully. So we have summited with Bumpy Guy, so he gets his marker up there. +1 acclimatization brings him up to 3, and that card is cancelled. Then the summit will take off 2 points from him, nothing from the weather. Smooth Guy will get -2 from the weather, so they are both at the bare minimum, but we are done. We have, used the risk tokens, used the cards, and we are on the final, we have completed the final day. So, yeah, they have both barely survived, and we have at least 1 at the summit, but, that's a minor point. So we have scored in total 17 points. If one of our guys had died, they would basically get all their points wiped, apart from 1, and the game would be immediately over. So you'd score points for your remaining climber plus 1 posthumous point for your deceased climber. But we managed to get everyone through it just about. So we have 17 points, and looking at the table, it will give you a chart. So we did the harder board, but with the summer weather tiles. So basically easier board, harder board, and then a choice of either summer or weather gives you a chart to go through for your points. So we did harder board, summer tiles, and we got 17 points. Oh, nice. Which means we are Himalayan mountaineer level. Yeah, I'm quite happy with that. Wasn't sure I was going to make it there for a point, but yeah. So that is basically the solo game of K2. I hope you enjoyed it, and see you again.